In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. And yet, even among the countless horrors of the galaxy, one threat moves with a kind of silent inevitability. Not a fleet, not an army, but a hunger that crosses not only space, but entire eras of cosmic history. Tonight, we'll travel through the slow, patient unfolding of Tyranid lore, a story of endless consumption, mysterious origins, and the vast biological intelligence that operates on scales beyond our comprehension. So, settle in. Let the calm pacing carry you, and drift into the quiet darkness of the void as we begin to explore the full history of the Tyranids. Chapter 1. The Quiet Origins of the Swarm. About 15 minutes of narration. The origins of the Tyranids lie far beyond the rim of the Milky Way, beyond the eastern void, past the faintest traces of stellar formation, past even the gravitational influence of the galactic spiral. Out in a region so ancient that even the Eldari have no surviving records of it. To understand their nature, we have to imagine ecosystems evolving not within the comfort of star systems, but within the deep intergalactic medium. An environment without light, without stable planets, and without life as we understand it. The Tyranids did not rise on a single homeworld. They did not flourish because of a supportive biosphere. Instead, most scholars believe they evolved under pressure so immense, it forged them into biology's most ruthless expression. Some theories suggest that another ancient power may have shaped them. Perhaps the Old Ones, or a civilization that even predates them, attempted to engineer a perfect ecosystem, one that could cleanse or reset a galaxy. Others believe the Tyranids are not fleeing toward the Milky Way, but fleeing from something. Something that exists beyond the dark void. Regardless of their beginnings, the Tyranids appear as a highly coordinated macroorganism, not separate species within a shared family tree, but rather biological subsystems within a single, overarching intelligence. The first forms we recognize as Tyranid organisms would have been simple: microbes, spores, pioneering bioforms that drifted through the void, small adaptive packets that latched onto drifting asteroids, comets, or dust clouds rich in carbon or nitrogen. Each successful encounter taught the early swarm something. Each failure became absorbed into the long memory of the proto-hive mind. We imagine this early evolution taking place over millions of years. But for Tyranids, time is not a limitation. Their evolution is directed, guided by data, not random mutation. Every encounter is an experiment. Every mistake becomes fuel for improvement. This era, the pre-galactic age, may have lasted longer than human history, a quiet, patient accumulation of knowledge in utter silence across the void. Eventually, the proto-swarms began constructing the first true hive fleets. Not ships in a technological sense, but astronomically large organisms grown from biomass and guided by synaptic control. These ancient hive fleets likely harvested entire dwarf galaxies long before they ever turned their attention towards the Milky Way. We do not know their names. We do not have their records. All we know is that when they finally approached our galaxy, they did so with purpose, with power, and with perfect coordination. The galaxy felt their arrival not through warp travel, but through the quiet disappearance of star systems along the rim. Planets vanished, asteroids disappeared, resource signatures were simply gone. The Eldari sensed a hunger growing. The Imperium felt a shadow pressing against the psychic fabric of reality. Astropaths faltered. Librarians spoke of a distant pressure, like a tide slowly rising. This was the first whisper of the Tyranids' arrival. And yet, even at this point, even with entire systems harvested, what the galaxy encountered were not the Tyranids in full. Only their outermost tendrils, only the smallest and weakest vanguard organisms. Everything we have ever fought, every hive fleet recorded in Imperial history, is merely the beginning. a splinter, a probing tendril of something far larger lurking in the void beyond. The hive mind has not yet truly arrived, but tonight, as you drift deeper into rest, we continue moving closer to understanding how the Tyranids operate, and why their hunger is unlike anything the galaxy has ever faced. To understand the Tyranids, we must step away from the idea of them as an army of creatures, and instead see them as a single, unified organism, a living network extending across light years, expressing itself through millions of bioforms, each one fulfilling a purpose with absolute precision. At the heart of this system lies a mind, not a single consciousness, but a distributed, layered intelligence built from countless living nodes. This is the hive mind. Its presence is both psychic and biological, a hybrid network that extends through synapse creatures, back through the biomass of a hive fleet, and ultimately into the vast psychic pressure that radiates from the swarm itself. When a Tyranid creature is born, it is not learning, it is receiving. Knowledge is baked into it. Weapons, tactics, instincts, all pre-optimized for the prey world it is intended to consume. There is no culture among Tyranids, no tradition, no individuality. Every action is a function. Every form exists only because it has proven efficient across millions of battles in the long prehistoric dark beyond the galaxy. Norn Queens, the architects of evolution. At the biological apex of this system stand the Norn Queens, massive, immobile, bio-titanic organisms that serve as the industrial and genetic command centers of each hive fleet. A Norn Queen is not a mother in any emotional sense, but rather a living factory, an evolutionary engine that designs, tests, and births every Tyranid bioform. Within her cavernous body lie sensory chambers filled with fluids that respond to the genetic information returned from the swarm. Every prey organism consumed is broken down not only into raw biomass, but also into genetic knowledge. That data, chemical, psychic, and biological, flows back to the Norn Queen, who reinterprets it and adjusts the swarm accordingly. If a foe relies on heavy armor, she produces more anti-armor strains. If a species uses stealth, she seeds the swarm with heightened sensor organisms. If the prey has psychic strength, the hive mind elevates its own synaptic predators. This is not simple evolution. It is evolution with purpose, directed, instantaneous, a battlefield-level adaptation cycle that rewrites the swarm in real time. Some imperial xenobiologists compare a Norn queen to a strategic artificial intelligence, but this comparison underestimates her complexity. She is not a machine. She is closer to a biological supercomputer, operating on a scale so large that a single mistake absorbs only seconds of her lifespan. The synaptic network. The hive mind does not exist in the warp alone. It anchors itself through physical synapse creatures, tyrants, warriors, primes, zoanthropes, neurothropes, and other psychic organisms. These creatures amplify the hive mind's will locally. They act as living signal towers, retransmitting commands to the lesser Tyranids. Within a synaptic field, the swarm is unstoppable, fearless, coordinated, perfect. Remove the synapse, and the lesser bioforms revert to instinct. Still dangerous, but simplified, predictable, raw in their aggression. This is why Imperial commanders prioritize synapse creatures. But the hive mind knows this too. Many fleets deploy decoy synaptic nodes, redundant clusters, or heavily shielded cores to maintain cohesion throughout the conflict. And when a synapse creature dies, its memories, its combat experience, and its genetic learnings are not truly lost. Other synapse nodes absorb the feedback. The hive mind integrates the information. Future organisms grow with the improved design already integrated. Every death becomes a lesson, the shadow in the warp. As powerful as their biology is, the hive mind's psychic presence creates an even greater threat. the phenomenon known as the shadow in the warp. When a hive fleet approaches, the warp becomes distorted. Astropathic signals fail. Warp travel becomes unstable. Demons struggle to manifest. Individuals feel a suffocating pressure, as if their thoughts are being slowly drowned out. For psychers, the experience is overwhelming. Their minds overload, their powers backfire, and their connection to the warp becomes a source of pain instead of strength. This is not simply interference. This is the hive mind pressing inward on the warp, its collective intelligence so dense that it creates a psychic gravity well. To many scholars, the shadow in the warp is the strongest evidence that the Tyranids are far more vast outside the galaxy than anything we have encountered within it. The fleets we see are merely fragments, slivers, splinters of a greater whole. And yet even these splinters are enough to destabilize the psychic fabric of entire sectors. Unlike the mechanized armies of the Imperium, every Tyranid weapon is alive. Flesh borers, devourers, venom cannons, death spitters, bones hordes, scything talons, these are not crafted. They are grown. A bone sword, for example, is a symbiotic organism bonded to its wielder, drawing psychic power through the blade and emitting a disruptive energy field that can slice through ceramite and even force fields. Venom cannons produce corrosive compounds within their own organs and fire through peristaltic pressure rather than mechanical force. Devourers launch living worms that burrow into flesh, multiplying rapidly before digestion is complete. Everything the Tyranids use is biodegradable, self-repairing, and perfectly integrated with its wielder. This level of cohesion creates an army that functions as a single organism, a distributed body with millions of limbs, millions of eyes, and a single unified will. The arrival of the Tyranids into the Milky Way did not happen all at once. What the galaxy first encountered were exploratory tendrils, testing and tasting the galactic edge to understand the new biosphere they were preparing to consume. Each Hive Fleet is not simply an army, but a strategy, a way of thinking, a distinct evolutionary expression of the same overarching hive mind. Though all Tyranids serve one will, each fleet reflects a different adaptation, a different purpose, a different tactical philosophy shaped by the prey it is meant to devour. And so the galaxy's first encounter came in the form of overwhelming force. Hive Fleet Behemoth arrived like a tidal wave of biomass and aggression. There was nothing subtle about its advance, no misdirection, no infiltration, only unstoppable forward momentum. The first worlds along the rim simply vanished. Systems went dark one after another as the swarm consumed everything from atmosphere to ocean to continental crust. Not even the Astartes had any framework for understanding an enemy like this. Behemoth reached its zenith when it struck at Macraga, home of the Ultramarines. The defense was brutal. In the icy polar fortresses, the first company of the Ultramarines held back endless waves of Tyranid warriors. They fought until the last man, surrounded on all sides. When the battle ended, the Tyranids were dead only because the fortress reactors detonated, vaporizing both defenders and swarm. The Imperium called it a victory, but for the Tyranids it was only a data point, a test, a beginning. The hive mind had measured the galaxy's strength and adapted. What came next was very different. Hive Fleet Kraken did not strike like a spear. It fragmented into numerous fast-moving tendrils, each one breaking apart, rejoining and dividing again in unpredictable patterns. Where Behemoth was brute force, Kraken was fluidity and speed. It struck multiple sectors simultaneously, overwhelming defenders through motion rather than mass. One of Kraken's most infamous assaults was the attack on craft world Yandin. The Eldari were forced to awaken their wraith constructs in numbers not seen for millennia. Spirit Seer led hosts of Wraith Guard and Wraith Lords marched through the fire-lit halls of the craft world to meet the swarm. The battle was staggering in its casualties. Yandin survived only in the narrowest sense. Kraken, however, did not die. It merely splintered, scattering seeds of the swarm across the galaxy. To this day, splinter fleets of Kraken evolve autonomously, absorbing biomass and learning independently. Then came Leviathan. This fleet behaved unlike anything the Imperium expected. It did not come from the edge of the galaxy. It came up from the void beneath the galactic plane, rising like a silenced leviathan, rising from an unseen ocean trench. To Imperial astronomers, it seemed to appear from nothing, an impossible trajectory from a region thought empty and lifeless. In truth, Leviathan likely entered the Milky Way through a path unknown to humanity. Leviathan advanced in a double-pronged formation, its two massive arms curling inward like a living helix around the galaxy's core. This formation allowed it to envelop entire sectors, choking off escape routes and cutting communication lines. Worlds under Leviathan's approach reported the psychic pressure of the shadow in the warp at levels never before recorded. Astropaths went blind or insane. Navigators refused to enter the warp. Even ordinary citizens experienced drowning dreams, intrusive thoughts, and an overwhelming sense of hopelessness. Biologically, Leviathan was superior to any fleet before it. Its organisms adapted with frightening speed. Redundant organ clusters, improved digestion efficiency, faster maturation cycles. Every part of its design was a refinement. Behemoth had provided brute strength, Kraken mobility. Leviathan represented controlled, methodical annihilation. Entire subsectors simply vanished under Leviathan's approach. Imperial commanders quickly realized that they were not facing a singular swarm, but the first coordinated multi-axial assault in Tyranid history. Leviathan adapted faster than defenses could be planned. Kill an organism, and a new variation appeared the next time. Stronger, more specialized, aware of your tactics before you even committed to them. And this is only the beginning of what Leviathan would become. We return to the Tyranid Hive Fleets and their uncanny ability to learn from defeat. This is one of their most terrifying traits. Failure is not a setback, but a genetic lesson. Every slain hormigaunt, destroyed synapse creature, and burned spore is data, absorbed by the hive mind. Tyranids do not fear loss or retreat from despair. They withdraw only to recalibrate, reconsume, and return in a form designed to counter what defeated them. This adaptive loop is evident after major wars. After the Ultramarines halted Behemoth, Hive Fleet Kraken struck differently, splitting into fast-moving tendrils, attacking multiple worlds simultaneously. Kraken was not stronger, it was smarter, fluid, and flexible. The pattern repeats galaxy-wide. Tyranids test defenses, observe responses, and generate tailored countermeasures. Chapters relying on flamers face heat-resistant chitin. Void shields meet bioplasma artillery. Psychers encounter shadow beasts. Every adaptation is efficient, purposeful, and meaningful. Most mysterious is the speed of Tyranid adaptation. Genetic changes that normally take generations occur in a single cycle. The hive mind functions like real-time genome editing. Biomass stores billions of gene patterns, cataloged and recombined at will. Traits are selected with precision. Nothing is random, nothing wasted. Some speculate the hive fleets we see are scouts, anti-psyker beasts, synapse fortresses, living artillery, tunneling worms. These may be experiments for something far more devastating beyond the galaxy's edge. The tendrils we fight could be mere fingertips of a hand too massive to comprehend. Tyranids are accelerating. Hive fleets such as Leviathan, Kronos, Jormungandr, and Hydra showcase specialized doctrines, seemingly preparing for prolonged warfare against multiple enemies. Kronos counters demons and psychers. Jormungandr perfects subterranean assault. Hydra masters battlefield multiplication, yet the true voice of the hive mind remains distant. Even powerful psychers sense only oppressive silence rather than clear consciousness. Some scholars believe the hive mind is not fully present in our galaxy. What we perceive is faint psychic pressure. Its arrival could obliterate countless minds instantly. As Tyranids consume more sectors, their presence in the warp grows. Unlike psychic races, they impose order through neural mass, creating voids where demons cannot manifest and sorcery falters. This terrifying effect hints that Tyranids may be the galaxy's only force capable of purging demons completely. Some inquisitors speculate the Tyranids may be hunting predators within the warp itself, entities larger than chaos gods, feeding on psychic energy as Tyranids feed on biomass. Their shadow in the warp might be a defense mechanism for traversing hostile psychic space. Regardless, the Tyranids march on, probing the cicatrix maledictum, adapting to its properties. They study, learn, and evolve. The galaxy may yet face an invasion on an unprecedented scale. Tyranids do not tire, falter, or negotiate. They consume,